Before we begin, it's crucial to understand that the information presented in this video is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not intended as and should not be construed as financial, investment, legal, or tax advice. The world of cryptocurrency is highly volatile and carries significant risk. You should consult with a qualified professional before making any financial decisions. Past performance is not indicative of future results. The United States dollar's reign as the world's undisputed king is facing its greatest challenge in a century. And the challenger isn't another country's currency. It's not the yuan, not the euro. It's a line of code. It's cryptocurrency. And how the United States government, its corporations, and its citizens respond in the next 24 months will likely define the economic landscape for every single American for the next 50 years. You feel the confusion, don't you? One day the news screams that crypto is a Ponzi scheme, a tool for criminals, and that the whole thing is going to zero. The next day you see that BlackRock, the largest asset manager on planet Earth, managing trillions of dollars, is fighting tooth and nail to offer a Bitcoin product to its clients. You hear politicians in Washington calling for an outright ban, while others are drafting legislation to make America the global hub for digital assets. How can all of these things be true at the same time? Feels chaotic, feels contradictory, and that's because it is. This isn't just another video about the price of Dogecoin or some new NFT project. This is a 10-part deep dive, a masterclass designed specifically for you. The American citizen, the investor, the business owner, or just the curious observer trying to make sense of the noise. We are going to cut through the hype, the fear, and the political spin to give you a clear, comprehensive roadmap of the potential future of cryptocurrency, right here in the United States. Over this series, we will solve the problem of information overload. We will break down the complex regulatory battles happening in the halls of Congress and the SEC. We'll explore the monumental implications of a potential digital dollar and what it could mean for your privacy and your bank account. We will identify the industries from banking and real estate to art and gaming that are on the verge of being completely reinvented. And most importantly, we will equip you with the fundamental knowledge to understand the immense risks and the generational opportunities that are emerging, so you can navigate this new financial frontier with confidence, not confusion. To truly understand where we're going, we have to first understand the battlefield of today. Right now, the future of crypto in America is being pulled in three completely different directions by three incredibly powerful forces. Think of it as a massive tug of war, and your financial future is the rope in the middle. The first great force is the regulators. This is the old guard. The Securities and Exchange Commission, the Treasury Department, the Federal Reserve. These are the institutions built to protect the stability of the 20th century financial system. Their primary mandate is to protect consumers and maintain order. And when they look at crypto, they see wild, untamed territory. They see the collapse of giants like FTX, where billions of customer funds vanished overnight. They see the scams, the hacks, and the extreme volatility. Their worldview is shaped by decades of financial law, and their main tool, a piece of legislation called the Howey Test, was based on a Supreme Court case from 1946 involving a Florida orange grove. They are, in essence, trying to apply the traffic laws for horses and buggies to a fleet of self-driving Teslas. Their actions, which often seem hostile and slow, come from a place of caution. They want to prevent the system from blowing up, but in their attempt to control it, they risk strangling innovation in its cradle. On the opposite end of the rope, pulling with all their might, is the second great force, the innovators. These are the Silicon Valley coders, the decentralized networks of developers, the cypherpunk idealists who started this whole movement. They look at the traditional financial system and see something slow, expensive, and fundamentally unfair. Why should it take 3 business days to send money across the country? Why should billions of people around the world be unbanked because they lack access to traditional institutions? The innovators believe the answer is code. They're building a parallel financial system from the ground up. One that is open, transparent, permissionless, and belongs to everyone and no one. They speak a language of cryptography, of open-source protocols, and of distributed consensus. To them, the regulators' attempts to control this new world are not just misguided. They're a fundamental attack on the very principles of an open and free internet. This is a philosophical, almost revolutionary movement dedicated to taking power from centralized institutions and giving it back to the individual. For years, this was a two-way fight. The regulators on one side, the innovators on the other. But recently, a third colossal force has stepped onto the field, and it's changing the entire game. This third force is the incumbents. This is Wall Street, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, Fidelity, and the aforementioned Titan BlackRock. For a decade, many of these giants publicly dismissed crypto. They called it a fraud. Rat poison squared. But behind the scenes they were watching. They were studying. And now they're making their move. Why? Because their wealthiest clients are demanding it, and more importantly, they see an emerging multi-trillion-dollar asset class and they absolutely refuse to be left behind. The incumbents bring two things to the fight that the innovators never had: unimaginable amounts of capital and deep, entrenched political legitimacy. They have armies of lobbyists in Washington and direct lines to the very regulators the innovators have been fighting. But make no mistake, their goal is not to foster a decentralized utopia. Their goal is to take this wild, chaotic new technology and domesticate it. They want to package it, control it, and sell it back to you through the same traditional channels that exist today. They want to build their own toll booths on this new digital highway. Their entry legitimizes the space in the eyes of the mainstream, but it also threatens the core ethos of decentralization that started it all. So this is the state of play in America today. You have a three-way war for the soul of the digital economy. The regulators are fighting for control, the innovators are fighting for freedom, and the incumbents are fighting for profit. The chaos you see in the headlines is the shockwave from the collision of these three tectonic plates. One group uses laws from the 1940s, another uses code written yesterday, and the third uses its immense wealth and influence to bend both to its will. The outcome of this battle will answer the most fundamental questions about our financial future. Will the next generation of financial services in America be an open, decentralized protocol that anyone can build on, like the internet itself? Or will it become a walled garden controlled and monetized by the same handful of financial giants that run the world today? Will you have self-sovereignty over your own digital assets? Or will you need to ask a bank for permission to use your own money? The stakes are not just about the price of Bitcoin. They are about the very nature of money, power, and freedom in the 21st century. The battle lines are drawn, the fight is happening in courtrooms, in server rooms, and in the halls of power right now. And understanding this three-way conflict is the essential first step to understanding everything that comes next. Let's name the players in this continental-scale chess match. First, you have the architects. These are the original believers, the modern-day cypherpunks who see cryptocurrency not as an investment, but as a revolution. They are the spiritual descendants of the people who built the early internet, idealists who believe in the power of code to create a more open, fair, and decentralized world. Their gospel is the Bitcoin white paper, a 9-page document that proposed a system for electronic cash that didn't need a bank, a government, or any trusted third party to function. To the architects, the entire legacy financial system is a relic. It's slow, it's expensive, it's exclusionary, and it's controlled by a handful of powerful gatekeepers. They look at a multi-day wait for an international wire transfer and see an absurdity in an age of instant information. They see billions of people around the world who are unbanked, locked out of the global economy because they can't get a simple bank account, and they see a moral failure. Their solution is not to reform the old system, but to build a brand new one from the ground up, on the bedrock of cryptography and open-source software. Their battlefield is the server room, the GitHub repository, the developer forum. They fight with lines of code, building protocols like Ethereum that are less like currencies and more like global decentralized supercomputers. They create decentralized finance, or DeFi, a parallel universe of lending, borrowing, and trading that runs entirely on automated smart contracts, with no CEOs or corporate headquarters. For the architects, the goal is sovereignty, the sovereignty of the individual over their own money and their own data. They believe in a future where you are your own bank. Their war cry is don't trust, verify. They are building a world governed by math, not by men. But then the second player entered the arena. We'll call them the Titans. These are the giants of Wall Street, the very institutions the architects sought to make obsolete. For years, the Titans dismissed crypto. They called it a fad, a fraud. Rat poison squared. Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan Chase, famously threatened to fire any trader caught dealing in Bitcoin. But the Titans didn't get to be Titans by ignoring a multi-trillion-dollar asset class forever. They saw the revolutionary fervor of the architects, and where the idealists saw liberation, the financiers saw volatility. And volatility is just a fancy word for opportunity. So they changed their tune. Slowly at first, then all at once. The same banks that once mocked crypto began publishing glowing research reports on it. The same asset managers who warned clients away from it started building products to sell it to them. The Titans' goal is not to overthrow the system. It's to absorb this new technology into it. They want to domesticate the wild frontier of crypto and turn it into another well-manicured corner of their financial empire. Their weapon of choice is capital, unimaginable, world-shaking amounts of it. They don't need to write the code, they just need to buy it, package it, and sell it. Their crowning achievement so far? The spot Bitcoin ETF. For a decade, the architects and early adopters tried and failed to get one approved. It took the entry of BlackRock, the world's largest asset manager with $10 trillion under its control, to finally make it happen. The Titans are creating a bridge for the massive, conservative pools of institutional money, pension funds, endowments, family offices, to flood into crypto. But this bridge comes at a cost. It requires custodians, surveillance, and compliance. It takes a decentralized, peer-to-peer asset and puts it inside the very centralized, trust-based system it was designed to escape. For the Titans, the goal isn't sovereignty, it's market share. Their war cry is assets under management. They are building a world where crypto is just another ticker symbol on a Bloomberg terminal. This brings us to the third and most powerful player in this game. The one that can, with the stroke of a pen, change all the rules. We will call this player the Leviathan. This is the United States government and its vast apparatus of regulatory agencies. The Securities and Exchange Commission, the Treasury Department, the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, and the Federal Reserve. The Leviathan moves slowly, but it wields absolute power. For years, it watched the rise of crypto with a confused mixture of curiosity and alarm. Unlike the architects or the Titans, the Leviathan doesn't have a single, simple goal. It's driven by a complex and often contradictory set of mandates. First, it must protect consumers and investors. The crypto world is rife with scams, hacks, and catastrophic collapses like FTX. The Leviathan sees its duty as policing this new Wild West to prevent its citizens from getting hurt. Second, it must protect national security. The pseudo-anonymity of crypto makes it an attractive tool for money launderers, terrorist organizations, and sanctioned nations like North Korea. The Leviathan is obsessed with cutting off these illicit financial flows. But its third mandate is the most important, the one that underpins America's global power. It must protect the US dollar. The dollar's status as the world's reserve currency is what economists call an exorbitant privilege. It allows the United States to borrow cheaply, wield immense influence through sanctions, and dominate the global financial system. A truly successful global decentralized cryptocurrency could, in theory, pose a direct threat to that dominance. And the Leviathan will not let that happen. Its battlefield is the courtroom and the halls of Congress. Its weapons are subpoenas, fines, enforcement actions, and the threat of new legislation. The SEC, under its current leadership, has taken a particularly aggressive stance, launching dozens of lawsuits against crypto exchanges and projects, arguing that nearly every digital asset, except perhaps Bitcoin, is an unregistered security and therefore illegal. This regulation by enforcement approach has cast a chilling effect over the entire US crypto industry, forcing innovation and talent overseas. The Leviathan is caught in a trilemma. It wants to encourage technological innovation, but it also wants to ensure consumer protection and maintain absolute financial control. It is becoming increasingly clear it can't have all three, and so it is choosing control. Its war cry is national interest. It is fighting to ensure that no matter what the future of finance looks like, it is a future that is still fundamentally written and refereed by Washington, D.C. So here we have it, the three-way conflict that will define the next decade. The architects fighting for a decentralized future, the Titans fighting to co-opt that future for profit, and the Leviathan fighting to control that future for power. These are not just different opinions. They are fundamentally incompatible visions of the world. The architect's dream of a permissionless system is the Leviathan's national security nightmare. The Titan's desire for a regulated, institutional-friendly product is anathema to the architect's core philosophy. And the Leviathan's demand for control is a direct threat to the business models of the Titans and the very existence of the architects. They are locked in a complex dance of conflict and temporary, uneasy alliances. Wall Street firms lobby Congress for regulatory clarity that would benefit them, sometimes siding with crypto companies against the SEC. Crypto developers build privacy tools that directly challenge the surveillance capabilities sought by the Treasury. And the regulators try to draw lines in the sand that are constantly being washed away by the tides of new technology. This is the central drama. A technological revolution is being pulled in three different directions at once. The question is, which force will pull the hardest? Which vision will ultimately win out and become the reality for the hundreds of millions of people who will enter this new financial world? Because this isn't a battle of equals. One of these groups has a hidden, almost unfair advantage that could decide the entire outcome. And to understand what that is, we have to look at the very foundation of the United States' power and how crypto poses the first real threat to it in over 80 years. To understand this advantage, you have to ask yourself a simple question. What is the single most powerful weapon in the United States arsenal? It's not a stealth bomber. It's not a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier. It's not even its vast network of intelligence agencies. The most powerful, most influential, and most dominant weapon America has ever wielded is the dollar. A small green piece of paper that governs the entire planet. It sounds like an exaggeration, but it's the fundamental truth of the modern world. For the last 80 years, the United States has controlled the global financial system because it controls the global reserve currency. Every time a country wants to buy oil, every time a multinational corporation wants to settle a contract, every time a central bank wants to store its nation's wealth, it overwhelmingly does so in US dollars. This isn't an accident. It's the result of one of the most brilliant and ruthless geopolitical strategies of the 20th century. It all started in 1944, in the final days of World War II. The world's economic powers met in a tiny town in New Hampshire called Bretton Woods. Europe was in ruins, and the United States was the only major economy left standing. It also held 2/3 of the world's gold. So they made a deal. The world would peg their currencies to the US dollar, and the US would, in turn, peg the dollar to gold at a fixed rate of $35 an ounce. Any country could, at any time, show up with their dollars and demand gold in return. This created trust. The dollar was as good as gold. This was the birth of the dollar's reign. For nearly 30 years, this system worked. But by the late 1960s, the United States was in trouble. It was spending massive amounts of money on the Vietnam War and domestic programs. It was printing more dollars than it had gold to back them up. Other countries, especially France, got nervous. They started showing up and asking for their gold, and America's reserves began to plummet. The system was on the verge of collapse. So on a quiet Sunday evening in August of 1971, President Richard Nixon went on television and did the unthinkable. He announced that the United States would no longer convert dollars to gold. In an instant, he severed the dollar's last tie to anything of physical value. This event, known as the Nixon shock, should have been the end of the dollar's dominance. The world had pegged their entire financial well-being to a promise, and America had just broken that promise. Logically, the world should have abandoned the dollar. But it didn't. In fact, the dollar became even more powerful. Why? Because the US government pulled off a masterstroke. They replaced the dollar's formal backing of gold with an informal backing of something the world needed just as much: oil. In the years that followed, Henry Kissinger and the US Treasury Department forged a series of agreements, most critically with Saudi Arabia, the world's largest oil producer. The deal was simple. The US would provide the kingdom with military protection and weapons. In return, Saudi Arabia would do two things. First, they would only sell their oil in US dollars. And second, they would invest their excess oil profits back into US government debt. Soon, all of OPEC, the cartel of oil-producing nations, followed suit. This was the birth of the petrodollar system. Suddenly, any country on Earth that wanted to buy oil, which was every single industrial country, now had to acquire US dollars first. It didn't matter if Japan wanted to buy oil from Saudi Arabia, or if Germany wanted to buy oil from Kuwait. The transaction had to happen in dollars. This created a massive, permanent, artificial global demand for American currency. The need for gold was replaced by the need for oil. The dollar wasn't backed by a shiny metal in a vault anymore. It was backed by the engine of the global economy itself. This is the hidden, almost unfair advantage. Because the world needs dollars to function, the United States gets incredible privileges. It can print trillions of dollars to fund its deficits without causing hyperinflation, because the rest of the world soaks up that currency. More importantly, it gives the US control over the plumbing of global finance. Most international dollar transactions are cleared through US banks. They have to touch the US financial system at some point, and this gives the United States government a terrifying power: the power of financial sanctions. If the US doesn't like what a country is doing, it can simply cut that country off from the US dollar system, can freeze their assets, it can forbid its banks from doing business with them. This is the financial equivalent of a nuclear bomb. We saw it used against Iran, crippling its economy. We've seen it used against Russia, cutting it off from huge swaths of the global market. It's the ultimate tool of foreign policy, allowing the US to project power not with soldiers and tanks, but with banking regulations and wire transfers. For 50 years, this system has been untouchable. There was no alternative. If you wanted to participate in the global economy, you had to play by America's rules because you had to use America's currency. There was no way around it. Until now. This is the existential threat that cryptocurrency poses to the foundation of American power. It's not about people buying pizzas with Bitcoin. It's not about the price of Dogecoin going up or down. The real fundamental threat is that for the first time in modern history, cryptocurrency creates a parallel financial system. A system that doesn't rely on US banks. A system that doesn't need the US dollar. Imagine two countries being able to trade billions of dollars worth of goods and services, settling the transaction in seconds using a stable coin like USDC or a neutral asset like Bitcoin, completely bypassing the entire US banking system. No wire transfers, no clearinghouses, no possibility of a US Treasury official stepping in to block the transaction. When you scale that up to include trillions of dollars in global trade, you begin to see the problem. It's not just a threat to the banks. It's a threat to the petrodollar system itself. It's a threat to America's ability to impose sanctions. It's a threat to the very mechanism that has propped up its global dominance for half a century. This isn't some far-off futuristic scenario. It's happening right now. Countries are already exploring ways to use digital currencies to trade outside the dollar's shadow. And the US government is keenly aware of this. They see this technology not just as a financial innovation, but as a direct challenge to national security. So when regulators in Washington, D.C. look at crypto, they aren't just seeing a risky asset for retail investors. They see the first crack in the dam. They see the beginning of the end of the unchallenged reign of the dollar. And their response is not going to be a simple, one-size-fits-all ban. It's going to be a multi-front war, executed with surgical precision. They will ignore the noise and go straight for the jugular. And the first major battleground, the first place they decided to draw a line in the sand, wasn't Bitcoin or Ethereum. It was something that, on the surface, looked like an ally of the dollar itself. And their strategy for controlling it is far more clever, and far more dangerous than anyone realizes. The weapon they chose to target, the one that truly terrified them, was the stablecoin. Think about it. For years, the US government watched as Bitcoin and Ethereum grew. They were volatile, complex, and seen by most people as a kind of digital casino. A curiosity. But stablecoins were different. They were a Trojan horse, painted in the familiar green of the US dollar. They didn't seek to replace the dollar. They sought to become the dollar, just in a faster, more efficient digital form. And that made them infinitely more dangerous. Why? Because stablecoins solved crypto's biggest adoption problem: usability. You don't buy your coffee with Bitcoin. The price could crash by the time the transaction clears. But you could buy it with a digital dollar that's always worth exactly $1. Stablecoins became the bridge, the essential plumbing connecting the old world of traditional finance with the new world of crypto. They were the on-ramps and the off-ramps. They were the lingua franca of the entire crypto economy. If you wanted to trade, if you wanted to participate in decentralized finance, if you wanted to move value across borders in minutes instead of days, you used stablecoins. In a way, private companies did the government's work for them. They built the infrastructure for a digital dollar and got millions of people around the world comfortable using it, all without the Federal Reserve lifting a finger. Companies like Tether with its USDT and Circle with its USDC created multi-billion-dollar ecosystems based on a simple promise. For every one of our digital tokens in circulation, there is one real US dollar held safely in a bank account somewhere. It was the dollar supercharged. And for regulators watching from Washington, this was the nightmare scenario. An unregulated, privately issued version of the US dollar was now settling trillions of dollars in transactions per year, completely outside of their control. It was a parallel financial system growing in the shadows, using the dollar's name and reputation but obeying none of its rules. This wasn't just a challenge to their authority. It was a threat to the very sovereignty of the US dollar itself. So they devised a plan. A plan not of outright aggression, but of subtle co-option. It wasn't a ban. A ban would be like trying to ban the internet. It's messy, it pushes innovation and capital offshore, and it never really works. No, their strategy was far more insidious. It was a strategy of containment, absorption, and replacement. a strategy to turn crypto's greatest strength into its ultimate vulnerability. It starts with a simple, powerful question, planted in the minds of the public through congressional hearings, news reports, and regulatory statements. Are you sure your digital dollar is safe? This is step 1. Delegitimize the incumbents. For years, whispers have surrounded Tether, the largest stablecoin. Where are the reserves? Is every USDT really backed by a dollar? Or is it a house of cards built on questionable commercial paper? Regulators don't need to prove a crime. They just need to sow doubt. They can launch investigations, leak scary-sounding headlines, and talk endlessly about consumer protection. The goal is to create an atmosphere of fear, uncertainty, and doubt around the existing unregulated stablecoins. They want the average person to feel that holding USDT is like holding a ticking time bomb. This manufactured fear creates a vacuum, a demand for a safe alternative. And that brings us to step 2. Introduce the approved version. This won't be branded as a scary central bank digital currency, or CBDC. The optics of that are terrible. It sounds like something out of a dystopian novel. Instead, it will be marketed as a regulated stablecoin. It will be issued by the very institutions you're supposed to trust. A consortium of the big banks like JP Morgan, Bank of America, and Wells Fargo, all operating with the explicit blessing and backing of the Federal Reserve and the U.S. Treasury. It will be sold to the public as the ultimate upgrade. All the benefits of a digital dollar, the marketing will say, with the security and insurance of the world's most trusted banking system. They'll talk about FDIC insurance, transparent audits, and instant settlement. It will be the safe choice, the patriotic choice, the responsible digital dollar for law-abiding citizens. And because it's run by the banks, it will seamlessly integrate with all the apps and services you already use. Venmo, Zelle, your bank's own app. They'll all push you to use this new official digital dollar. That's when the hammer falls. Step 3. Squeeze the competition into oblivion. This is the choke point. It's not a direct attack, but a slow, methodical strangulation. New rules will be passed. Any crypto exchange like Coinbase or Kraken that wants to maintain its U.S. banking licenses will be strongly encouraged to prioritize the new, regulated stablecoins. Maybe they'll be required to hold extra capital reserves against unregulated ones, making them unprofitable to support. Maybe they'll be forbidden from using them as primary trading pairs. Then the pressure moves to the payment networks. Visa and MasterCard, who have been dipping their toes into the crypto space, will be told in no uncertain terms. You can integrate with the approved, bank-issued stablecoins, or you can face the full undivided attention of every financial regulator in Washington. The choice will be obvious. Suddenly, the unregulated stablecoins that form the bedrock of the crypto economy are cut off. You can't easily buy them from major exchanges. You can't spend them with a crypto-linked debit card. They become toxic assets within the U.S. financial system. It's not a ban. It's just impossible to use. And so everyone from the biggest trading firms to the smallest retail investor will be forced to migrate their funds from things like USDT to the new Fedcoin, for lack of a better term. They will do it voluntarily, for the sake of convenience and safety, without ever realizing they're walking into a trap. And this is where we see how clever and how profoundly dangerous this strategy truly is. Because this new, regulated digital dollar is not just a better version of the old one. It is a fundamentally different type of money. It is the dawn of programmable permission currency. Think about what this means. Every single transaction is recorded on a centralized ledger, controlled by a handful of banks and overseen by the government. Your financial privacy? It's gone. Forever. Every coffee you buy, every book you read, every donation you make is permanently logged, analyzed, and tied directly to your identity. But it goes so much deeper than surveillance. It's about control. Money itself becomes programmable. Imagine a government stimulus payment that comes with an expiration date, forcing you to spend it within 30 days or lose it, all in the name of stimulating the economy. Imagine a world where certain purchases are blocked at the source. Your bank, or the government, could decide you've bought too much gasoline this month and simply decline the transaction at the pump. They could program your money so it can't be used to buy a firearm or to donate to a political campaign they don't approve of. This isn't a far-fetched conspiracy theory. The Bank for International Settlements, the central bank of central banks, has openly discussed the power of CBDCs, stating that they offer absolute control over the rules and regulations of money and the technology to enforce them. What they are building is a beautiful gilded cage. It uses the language of cryptocurrency, digital currency, blockchain technology, to trick people into accepting the most centralized, surveilled, and controlled form of money in human history. It's the ultimate bait and switch. They take the promise of open, permissionless finance that crypto was built on, and they twist it into a tool for absolute financial dominion. This battle was never about Bitcoin versus the dollar. It was always about permissionless money versus permissioned money. It's about whether you, the individual, have the right to own and transact freely, or whether that right is a privilege granted to you by a central authority that can be revoked at any moment. By co-opting the stablecoin, they found the perfect weapon. They had created a bridge for everyone to cross, from the old financial world into their new, perfectly controlled one. And once they controlled the dollar's digital twin, they had the key. The key to a door they had been trying to break down for years. The door to a new, wild, and completely untamed financial world. And they were about to turn that key. And as that key turned, there wasn't a sudden jarring crash. There wasn't a thunderous explosion that shook the foundations of Wall Street. No, it was a quiet click. A soft, almost imperceptible sound, like a deadbolt sliding into place. The door didn't swing open to reveal a monster. It opened to reveal a promise. A promise of a better, faster, fairer financial system for every single American. The rollout was brilliant. It wasn't framed as a replacement for the dollar. It was an upgrade. Dollar 2.0. It was pitched as a solution to problems everyone agreed were problems. Remember the chaos of the pandemic stimulus? The paper checks that got lost in the mail, the direct deposits that took weeks to clear? With the new Fed account and the digital dollar, that was ancient history. The government could now send money directly and instantly to every citizen's digital wallet. A national crisis hits on a Tuesday. By Wednesday morning, every American has the funds they need. No banks, no delays, no friction. It was a masterpiece of public relations. They called it financial inclusion. Millions of Americans without access to traditional banking, the unbanked, were instantly brought into the digital economy. All you needed was a smartphone. It was sold as a progressive leap forward, a tool for equality. And who could argue with that? The second promise was security. Think of all the fraud, the money laundering, the terrorist financing that plagues the current system. With a central bank digital currency, or CBDC, every single transaction is on a centralized ledger. The government could, in theory, see the entire flow of money in real time. Illicit activity would light up like a flare in the night sky. It was pitched as the ultimate weapon against crime. A safer America. So, you have a system that's faster, more inclusive, and safer. The arguments against it were painted as selfish, paranoid, or even criminal. Why wouldn't you want this? The talking heads on the news would ask. Unless you have something to hide? And for a while it worked just like they said. People loved the convenience. Paying for groceries with a simple tap of your phone, sending money to family instantly with zero fees. Felt like the future. But then the first software update came. It started subtly. The next round of government stimulus came with a few conditions. To encourage economic activity, the funds had an expiration date. If you didn't spend the money within 90 days, it vanished from your wallet. The official explanation was that this was a new, powerful tool for monetary policy. A way to jolt a sluggish economy back to life by forcing people to spend. Most people didn't mind, they needed the money anyway. But for the first time, money wasn't just money. It had rules attached. It was programmable. This was the true power of the key they had turned. Not just to create a digital dollar, but to control it. To program it. And once that door was open, it couldn't be closed. The next update was more specific. During a period of high inflation, the government decided to help families with rising food costs. They deposited a grocery and essentials credit into everyone's account. But this money could only be spent at registered grocery stores and gas stations. You couldn't use it to buy a TV or a concert ticket or a book they didn't approve of. Again, it was sold as a responsible, targeted way to deliver aid. A way to ensure taxpayer money was spent correctly. Do you see the pattern? Each step was logical. Each step was justified with a promise of safety, efficiency, or responsibility. It was the classic story of the frog in the pot of water. The temperature was rising so slowly, so incrementally, that the frog never realized it was being boiled alive. Then came the real shift. The move from economic control to social control. It began with linking the digital wallet to other government databases. Your taxes, for instance. With a full view of every dollar you earned and every dollar you spent, tax evasion became mathematically impossible. The IRS didn't need you to file a return anymore. They simply sent you a bill, or in most cases, automatically debited the amount from your Fed account. For many, this was just another convenience. But it meant the end of financial privacy, the end of off the books. Every single transaction, from buying a cup of coffee to paying your rent, was now a permanent, searchable record on a government server. They knew what you bought, where you bought it, when you bought it, and how much you paid. They knew your habits, your vices, your preferences, your entire economic life story. And with that data came the next upgrade: a personalized financial health score. It was framed as a helpful tool like a credit score, but for your day-to-day spending. It would offer helpful tips. We've noticed you're spending 30% of your income on fast food. Reducing that could improve your score. Or, your monthly fuel consumption is higher than the national average. Consider using public transport to boost your score and qualify for a green energy tax rebate. It was a gentle nudge at first, a recommendation. But then the insurance companies got involved. Why wouldn't they want access to that data? A person who buys cigarettes and liquor every week is a higher health risk. Their premiums should be higher. A person who drives their car aggressively, a fact easily determined by tracking their gas purchases and location data, should pay more for auto insurance. Your score started to have real-world consequences, and then the final lock clicked into place. They tied the score not just to your economic habits but to your social ones. The lines began to blur. Did you donate to a political candidate they disapproved of? Your score might dip. Did you visit a website flagged for spreading misinformation? Perhaps your ability to spend money on internet services would be temporarily throttled. Did you attend a protest that wasn't state-sanctioned? Maybe your wallet is frozen for 72 hours, pending a review, for public safety. This wasn't a blunt instrument of oppression. It was far more insidious. It was a system of automated, algorithm-driven social engineering, a digital leash. It didn't need armed guards on every street corner, when it could control your ability to participate in society with a single line of code. It was a quiet, clean, and terrifyingly efficient form of control. You were still free, of course. You just had to make the right choices to enjoy the full benefits of the new digital economy. The dollar was no longer a neutral tool for commerce. It had become an instrument of policy, an extension of state power embedded into the very fabric of your life. The untamed financial world they had unlocked wasn't a world of decentralized freedom, as the crypto pioneers had dreamed. It was a digital panopticon, a perfectly manicured garden walled on all sides, where the gardeners decided which flowers were allowed to bloom. And in this new centralized world, the old wild frontier of decentralized cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum looked more dangerous, more rebellious, and more essential than ever before. A conflict was brewing. Not a conflict of armies or nations but of ideologies. A war for the very soul of money, the centrally controlled, programmable dollar versus the decentralized, permissionless code of the blockchain. And the opening shots of that war were about to be fired. The first volley wasn't a lawsuit or a piece of legislation. It was a collapse. A spectacular multi-billion-dollar implosion that sent shockwaves through the entire financial world. The fall of FTX wasn't just a corporate failure. It was the perfect excuse. It was the crypto industry's Lehman Brothers moment, the justification that regulators and politicians had been waiting for. For years, they had watched this strange, decentralized world grow with a mixture of confusion and contempt. Now they had their casus belli, their reason for war. And they would not let the opportunity go to waste. Almost overnight, the climate in Washington, D.C. shifted from cautious curiosity to outright hostility. The narrative was set in stone. Crypto was a lawless frontier, a digital Wild West run by fraudsters and charlatans. The public was at risk. The financial system was at risk. Action was needed. And the state, with its vast and formidable arsenal of regulatory power, prepared to move in. What followed wasn't a single coordinated attack, but a multi-front assault, designed to encircle, isolate, and neutralize the American crypto industry. The first front was the most visible, the regulatory offensive. Leading the charge was the Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC, under its chairman Gary Gensler. His strategy was simple, brutal, and effective: regulation by enforcement. Instead of providing clear rules of the road for crypto companies to follow, the SEC would simply sue them for breaking rules that were never clearly defined in the first place. It was like sending someone into a maze with no map, and then arresting them for taking a wrong turn. The logic was chilling. The SEC declared that nearly every single cryptocurrency, with the possible exception of Bitcoin, was an unregistered security. This wasn't a proposal or a topic for debate. It was presented as an established fact. And if you were a crypto exchange like Coinbase or Kraken, that meant you were, in the SEC's view, operating as an illegal, unregistered national securities exchange. It didn't matter that you had been operating in the open for years. It didn't matter that you had gone to the SEC for guidance and received none. The trap had been set, and now it was being sprung. Lawsuits were filed against the largest and most reputable players in the United States. Coinbase, a publicly traded company that had its S-1 registration statement personally reviewed and approved by the SEC just a couple of years prior, was now public enemy number one. Binance US was targeted. The message was unambiguous. No one is safe. This wasn't about protecting investors. It was about asserting dominance. It was a show of force designed to grind the industry to a halt, to drown it in legal fees and uncertainty, scaring away investors, builders, and talent. The goal seemed to be to make it so difficult, so expensive, and so legally perilous to operate a crypto business in America that most would either give up or move overseas. While the SEC waged its shock and awe campaign on the regulatory front, a second, quieter battle was being fought on the banking front. This was far more insidious. It became known as Operation Choke Point 2.0, a spiritual successor to an Obama-era program that pressured banks to cut off services to industries the government disfavored. This time the target was crypto. There was no official memo, no public declaration. It all happened behind the scenes in quiet conversations between regulators from the Federal Reserve, the FDIC, and the Treasury, and the executives of the banks they oversaw. The message was subtle but firm. Doing business with crypto companies is a risk. A reputational risk. A liquidity risk. Banks that served crypto clients started facing intense scrutiny, endless examinations, and mountains of paperwork. The regulators never said, "You must drop your crypto customers." They didn't have to. They just made it impossibly painful to keep them. The effect was devastating. One by one, the crypto-friendly banks began to fall. Silvergate Bank, which had built a real-time payments network for the crypto industry, was pressured into liquidation. Signature Bank, another key financial partner, was seized by regulators over a weekend, despite its leadership insisting it was solvent. Suddenly, the on-ramps and off-ramps connecting the traditional financial system to the crypto economy were being systematically dismantled. Companies that had done everything by the book, that had legitimate banking relationships, woke up to find their accounts closed with little to no explanation. They were being debanked, cut off from the financial bloodstream of the country. It was a siege designed to starve the industry of the basic financial services it needed to survive. The third front was Congress, the legislative battlefield. Here, the war was not one of blitzkrieg but of attrition. The crypto industry had allies in Washington, forward-thinking Republicans and Democrats who saw the potential of the technology and were trying to draft sensible legislation to provide clarity. People like Senator Cynthia Lummis and Senator Kirsten Gillibrand worked across the aisle to create comprehensive frameworks for regulating digital assets. They argued that you couldn't just cram this new technology into a legal framework written in the 1930s. You needed new laws for a new age. But they were fighting an uphill battle against a powerful anti-crypto coalition, led by figures like Senator Elizabeth Warren, who painted the entire industry with a broad brush of criminality and financial ruin. She saw crypto not as an innovation to be nurtured, but as a threat to be extinguished. The result was a legislative stalemate. Congress, paralyzed by partisan division and a fundamental lack of understanding of the technology, couldn't agree on a path forward. And this legislative vacuum was exactly what the regulators like the SEC exploited. With no new laws from Congress to constrain them, they were free to interpret the old laws however they saw fit, expanding their own power and jurisdiction into the digital realm. Regulation by enforcement, debanking by insinuation, paralysis by legislation. These were the three prongs of the assault. For a time it seemed to be working. The industry was on its back foot, reeling from the constant attacks. Billions in market value had been wiped out. Innovation was fleeing to more welcoming shores in Europe, Asia, and the Middle East. The narrative that America was closed for business when it came to crypto was taking hold. The future looked bleak. It seemed as if the centrally controlled state-sanctioned vision for the future of money was on the verge of total victory. But the crypto industry wasn't a single company you could bankrupt or a single CEO you could jail. It was a global, decentralized movement, built on an ideology of open networks and individual sovereignty. and it was not going to go down without a fight. The battlefield was about to shift. The regulators had chosen to wage their war through the legal system, through lawsuits and enforcement actions. And in America, the legal system has a final arbiter: the courts. The industry began to fight back, not in the halls of Congress or in the press, but in the courtroom. They argued that the SEC was overstepping its authority, that it was misinterpreting the law, and that it was violating the basic principles of due process by failing to provide fair notice. And then, something unexpected happened. They started to win. The first major blow to the government's campaign came in the landmark case of Grayscale Investments versus the SEC. Grayscale wanted to convert its massive Bitcoin trust into a spot Bitcoin ETF, a product that would allow mainstream investors to easily get exposure to Bitcoin through their brokerage accounts. The SEC denied their application, just as it had denied every other spot Bitcoin ETF application for years, claiming concerns about market manipulation. Grayscale's response was simple: you already approved a Bitcoin futures ETF. A futures ETF is based on the same underlying Bitcoin market. To approve one and deny the other is, legally speaking, arbitrary and capricious. They sued the SEC, and in a stunning unanimous decision, the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals agreed. A panel of federal judges delivered a scathing rebuke to the SEC, calling its reasoning illogical and its denial unlawful. The unblinking eye of the state had just been forced to blink. The government had just been handed its first major defeat. But was it a fluke? Or was it the beginning of a counteroffensive that would change everything? It was the shot heard round the digital world, a single court ruling that sent a shockwave through the halls of power in Washington, D.C. But a single victory, no matter how decisive, doesn't win a war. A fluke is a random event, a lucky break. A counteroffensive, however, is a coordinated strategy. It's a series of calculated moves on multiple fronts. And what happened next proved that the Grayscale decision was no fluke. It was the first domino in a chain reaction that was about to topple the old guard's entire strategy. While the ink was still drying on that landmark ruling, another battle was raging on a different front. This fight had been grinding on for years, a legal war of attrition that many had written off. The combatants: the SEC versus Ripple Labs, the company behind the cryptocurrency XRP. The SEC's argument was the same one it had used time and time again: that XRP was an unregistered security, and that Ripple had been illegally selling it to the public for years. For the SEC, this was a cornerstone case. If they could prove that a major, established cryptocurrency like XRP was a security, it would set a precedent that could bring nearly the entire industry under their thumb. It was their checkmate move. But then, in July of 2023, just a month before the Grayscale verdict, the judge in the Ripple case delivered a decision that was just as stunning. Judge Annalisa Torres drew a line in the sand that the SEC had never anticipated. She ruled that while Ripple's direct sales of XRP to institutional investors did constitute security sales, the vast majority of XRP sales, the ones made to everyday people on public exchanges, did not. Think about what that means. The court essentially said that the token itself, the XRP, is not inherently a security. It's just code. What matters is the context of the sale. It was a nuanced, sophisticated argument that completely dismantled the SEC's blunt force approach of painting everything with the same security brush. The ruling was a partial victory, not a total one, but its impact was monumental. It created a legal framework, a precedent, that other crypto projects could now use to defend themselves. The SEC's primary weapon, legal ambiguity, was being systematically disarmed, not by lobbyists, but by federal judges. The counteroffensive was real, and it was gaining ground in the courts. But the American system of power has three branches for a reason. While the judicial branch was busy delivering these stunning rebukes, another front was opening up in the halls of Congress. For years, lawmakers had treated crypto like a political hot potato. Too new, too complex, too controversial to touch. Their inaction had created the very power vacuum that allowed the SEC to go on its regulatory rampage in the first place. But now, seeing the court step in and the executive branch's strategy crumble, Congress finally began to stir. Two key pieces of legislation began to move through the House of Representatives, both with a clear and unmistakable purpose: to end the chaos and create rules of the road. The first was the Financial Innovation and Technology for the 21st Century Act, or FIT 21. This was the big one. It was a comprehensive bill designed to create a genuine regulatory framework for digital assets in the United States. Its core idea was to split the responsibility, Digital assets that were truly decentralized, like Bitcoin, would be treated as commodities and overseen by the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, or CFTC. Those that were more centralized and looked more like traditional investments would fall under the SEC. This wasn't just a new set of rules, it was a direct philosophical challenge to Gary Gensler's SEC. It was Congress saying, "Your everything as a security approach is wrong, it's stifling innovation, and we are going to legislate it out of existence." The bill wasn't perfect and it faced a tough road in the Senate, but for the first time, a bipartisan group of lawmakers was putting forward a real workable alternative. The legislative branch was officially entering the fight. Alongside it was the Clarity for Payment Stablecoins Act. This bill tackled another critical piece of the ecosystem. Stablecoins, the digital dollars that act as the bedrock for much of crypto trading. The bill aimed to create a federal framework for issuing stablecoins, setting standards for reserves and oversight. Again, the goal was simple: create clarity. Take away the ambiguity that regulators had been exploiting. The architects of this legislative push, figures like House Financial Services Committee Chairman Patrick McHenry and Digital Assets Subcommittee Chair French Hill, weren't just politicians scoring points. They were methodically building a case. They held hearings, they brought in experts, they debated the technology, and they hammered out legislative text. They were doing the hard, unglamorous work of governance that had been missing for years. They were building a fortress of legal clarity brick by brick, right in the SEC's backyard. So you have the courts pushing back on one side, and Congress building a new framework on the other. How did the SEC and the White House respond to this two-front war? They doubled down. Gary Gensler continued his public crusade, giving speeches and interviews where he repeated his mantra that the existing securities laws were perfectly clear and that the crypto industry was built on non-compliance. He portrayed the industry not as innovators but as outlaws. The SEC kept filing lawsuits, even as their legal foundations were cracking. It was the response of an empire that feels its grip on power slipping, not to adapt but to squeeze even harder. This created a fascinating and dangerous dynamic. The momentum was clearly shifting. The industry, battered and bruised, was now emboldened by its victories in court. Lawmakers were finally providing a path toward a clear and regulated future. The narrative was changing from crypto is a lawless Wild West to the US government's approach to crypto is broken. It felt like a turning point, a new dawn. The counteroffensive had been successful beyond anyone's wildest dreams. But a cornered animal is a dangerous one, and the SEC, despite its losses, still held the keys to the single most important prize in the entire American crypto landscape. The one thing that could bridge the gap between the chaotic world of crypto and the trillions of dollars sitting in mainstream finance. The Holy Grail, a spot Bitcoin ETF. The Grayscale Court victory hadn't approved their ETF directly. It had simply called the SEC's denial unlawful and forced them to go back and review the application again. But in the wake of that decision, the floodgates had opened. It wasn't just Grayscale anymore. Suddenly, the biggest names on Wall Street, the titans of traditional finance, were all lined up at the SEC's door. BlackRock, the world's largest asset manager with over $9 trillion under its control. Fidelity, ARK Invest, Invesco, an entire army of financial giants, all demanding approval for their own spot Bitcoin ETFs. The SEC was trapped. They had lost the legal argument in court. They were facing a pincer movement from the judicial and legislative branches. And now they had the full weight of Wall Street bearing down on them. Approving the ETFs would mean legitimizing Bitcoin in a way that could never be undone. It would unleash a tidal wave of institutional capital and officially welcome crypto into the mainstream financial system, the very thing they had fought for years to prevent. Denying them again would almost certainly mean another lawsuit, another court battle they were now likely to lose. The counteroffensive had pushed the old guard all the way back to their last line of defense. Everything came down to this one decision. Would they finally concede, acknowledging the new reality and opening the doors to a new financial era? Or would they find one last trick, one final bureaucratic maneuver to delay the inevitable and plunge the future of crypto in America back into uncertainty? The entire world was watching. The silence from the Securities and Exchange Commission was deafening. In the wake of the court's decisive ruling, every analyst, every investor, every crypto enthusiast held their breath. The path had forked. Down one road lay compliance, a reluctant acceptance of the court's judgment, and the dawn of a new, regulated, and mainstream era for digital assets. Down the other was a final desperate appeal. a move that would signal an intractable hostility, a war against innovation that the agency was willing to wage to the bitter end, regardless of the cost to its own credibility. For weeks, the market hung in limbo. The SEC remained tight-lipped, a black box of regulatory power. But behind the scenes, the pressure was immense. The world's largest asset managers weren't just knocking on the door anymore. They had a court order to have it opened. The final trick, the last bureaucratic maneuver, never came. Whether it was the stinging rebuke from the judiciary, the immense political pressure, or a simple recognition that the tide had turned, the agency blinked. They would not appeal the grayscale decision. The dam was about to break. The deadline was January 10, 2024, a date that will be etched into financial history. As the day approached, the tension was palpable. The entire digital world was refreshing their screens, waiting for the official announcement. Then chaos. A tweet, seemingly from the official SEC account, flashed across the internet. The SEC grants approval for Bitcoin ETFs. The market erupted. Bitcoin's price surged. For a fleeting moment, it seemed the wait was over. And then just as quickly, the dream was shattered. SEC Chair Gary Gensler himself tweeted from his personal account. The SEC Twitter account was compromised, and an unauthorized tweet was posted. The SEC has not approved the listing and trading of spot Bitcoin exchange-traded products. It was a hack, a cruel last-minute twist in a decade-long saga. The market plunged, liquidating hundreds of millions of dollars from traders in minutes. It was a perfect microcosm of the crypto journey in America. A flash of euphoric hope, immediately followed by a brutal, gut-wrenching blow. But this time, the blow was temporary. The farce of the fake tweet only heightened the anticipation for the real thing. And the next day it came. Not with a dramatic tweet, but with a quiet, formal filing. The SEC, cornered and out of options, officially approved not one, but 11 spot Bitcoin ETFs. BlackRock, Fidelity, ARK Invest, VanEck, the titans of Wall Street had breached the gates. The final barrier between the world's oldest financial system and its newest, most disruptive asset had crumbled. It wasn't just a victory, it was a surrender. For 10 years, the SEC had said no. They had claimed the market was too prone to manipulation, too risky, too Wild West. But now they were forced to concede. Bitcoin was here to stay, and it was officially ready for Main Street's portfolio. What happened next was a spectacle of capital unlike anything the crypto world had ever seen. This wasn't a retail-driven bull run fueled by stimulus checks and social media hype. This was the sound of institutional money, the deep, thunderous roar of Wall Street waking up. In the first 3 days alone, the new ETF saw nearly $2 billion in net inflows. Within the first month, they had pulled in over $10 billion. BlackRock's iShares Bitcoin Trust (IBIT) became one of the fastest-growing ETFs in history, reaching $10 billion in assets under management in just 7 weeks. A feat that took the first gold ETF 2 years to accomplish. The numbers were staggering, but they represented something far more profound. Every dollar that flowed into these ETFs was a vote of confidence. It was a signal that Bitcoin had graduated. It was no longer a niche asset for tech-savvy early adopters. It was a legitimate, investable part of the global financial landscape, sitting in the brokerage accounts of ordinary Americans, right next to their shares in Apple and their S&P 500 index funds. The approval of the Bitcoin ETF wasn't an endpoint. It was a starting pistol. It established a critical precedent. If a crypto asset was sufficiently decentralized and its futures market was robust enough to prevent manipulation, it could be considered a commodity, and a spot ETF was possible. Naturally, all eyes turned to the next in line, Ethereum, the world's second-largest cryptocurrency, the foundational layer for decentralized finance and NFTs. An Ethereum ETF seemed like the logical next step. The Chicago Mercantile Exchange already had a regulated Ether futures market, just like Bitcoin. The world's largest asset managers, fresh off their Bitcoin victory, immediately filed applications for spot Ether ETFs. But this was not going to be a simple sequel. The SEC had a new line of attack. The core of the issue was the fundamental nature of Ethereum itself. Unlike Bitcoin, which has a clear, singular purpose as a store of value, Ethereum is a dynamic, evolving platform. The network's transition to a proof-of-stake system, where users can stake their Ether to help secure the network and earn rewards, raised a thorny question. Did this staking mechanism make Ether function like a stock that pays a dividend? Did it mean that investors were entering into an investment contract, expecting profits from the efforts of the Ethereum developers? In other words, did it pass the Howey test? The SEC began quietly issuing subpoenas to organizations connected to the Ethereum Foundation, signaling that a new war was brewing. The agency, having lost the battle on Bitcoin market manipulation, was now preparing to fight on the grounds that Ether itself was an unregistered security. The entire multi-trillion-dollar crypto industry hung in the balance. If Ether was deemed a security, it wouldn't just derail the ETF. It would potentially outlaw most of the existing crypto ecosystem in the United States. But as the SEC was opening a new front in its regulatory war, a seismic shift was occurring in another part of Washington, D.C. For years, crypto had been a fringe issue in Congress, misunderstood by most and ignored by many. But the growing number of American crypto owners, now estimated at over 50 million, had created a new, powerful political force, the crypto voter. And politicians were starting to notice. A landmark piece of legislation, the Financial Innovation and Technology for the 21st Century Act, or FIT21, began making its way through the House of Representatives. It was the most comprehensive attempt yet to create clear rules for the digital asset industry, defining what makes a token a security or a commodity and dividing regulatory authority between the SEC and the CFTC. In a stunning display of bipartisan support, the bill passed the House with 71 Democrats joining a majority of Republicans. It was a direct legislative challenge to the SEC's regulation by enforcement approach. The political rebellion didn't stop there. Congress took aim at a controversial SEC accounting bulletin known as SAB 121, which made it prohibitively expensive for banks to custody digital assets for their customers. Both the House and the Senate voted to overturn the rule, marking a rare instance of Congress directly rebuking a specific regulatory action. Although President Biden vetoed the resolution, the message was clear. A powerful bipartisan coalition in Congress believed the SEC had overstepped its authority. The political winds were changing. For the first time, the crypto industry had powerful allies walking the halls of the Capitol. The narrative was no longer being controlled solely by skeptical regulators. It was now a full-blown political debate about the future of finance and America's role in it. The pieces were now in motion for a future that seemed impossible just a year earlier. Wall Street was pouring billions of dollars into the market through newly approved ETFs. Congress was actively working to create a clear, pro-innovation regulatory framework. The courts had proven to be a powerful backstop against regulatory overreach. The battle for an Ethereum ETF was raging, but the outcome no longer felt preordained. The industry had momentum, but with this new legitimacy, this flood of new capital and attention, came a far greater challenge. The question was no longer if crypto could survive in the United States. The question was now, with the whole world watching and waiting to use it, could the technology actually scale to meet the moment? Could these decentralized networks handle the traffic of a global financial system? The war for legitimacy was ending, but the war for utility was just beginning. And at the heart of this war was a single, devastatingly difficult problem. A fundamental puzzle that has haunted developers since the very first block was mined. It's known as the blockchain trilemma. Imagine a triangle. At its three corners you have security, decentralization, and scalability. Security means the network is unhackable, your funds are safe. Decentralization means there's no single point of control, no CEO or government that can shut it down. And scalability means the network can handle a massive volume of transactions quickly and cheaply, like the modern internet. Here's the catch, the brutal trade-off that has defined a decade of crypto development. You can have any two, but getting all three at once has been a near impossible feat of engineering. Bitcoin is the perfect example. It is a fortress of security, arguably the most secure computer network on the planet. It is also radically decentralized, run by a global network of miners with no one in charge. But to achieve this, it had to sacrifice scalability. Bitcoin can only process about 7 transactions per second. 7. For perspective, the Visa network routinely handles tens of thousands of transactions every single second. At that speed, Bitcoin could never be the payment system for a corner store, let alone a country. Ethereum, the world's supercomputer, ran headfirst into the same wall. It was designed to do so much more than Bitcoin, to run smart contracts, to be the foundation for a new decentralized internet. But as its popularity exploded with NFTs and DeFi, the network clogged. During periods of high demand, the digital city of Ethereum would experience gridlock. The network would slow to a crawl, and the cost to do anything, the infamous gas fees, would skyrocket, sometimes costing hundreds of dollars just to make a single trade. It was like trying to fit the entire world's commerce onto a single-lane country road during rush hour. The system was a victim of its own success. For crypto to have a future in the US, for it to be anything more than a speculative asset for the rich, this had to be solved. The first major offensive in the war for utility came from a new generation of blockchains, often called the Ethereum killers. These were Layer 1 networks, brand new foundations built from the ground up with the trilemma in mind. Projects like Solana, Cardano, and Avalanche each came to the fight with a different weapon, a different architectural philosophy. Solana introduced a new timing mechanism called proof of history, promising blistering speeds. Others experimented with different consensus mechanisms, new ways for the network to agree on the state of the ledger, all in a frantic race to build a better, faster, cheaper foundation. It was a brutal competition. Billions of dollars in venture capital poured in, and developer talent was poached from Silicon Valley's biggest giants. The goal was to build a blockchain that could finally deliver on the promise. A network as decentralized and secure as Ethereum, but with the speed and low cost of a centralized payment processor. But while these new contenders were trying to build a better highway from scratch, another, perhaps even more powerful strategy was emerging. Instead of ripping up the old road and starting over, what if you could build an express lane directly on top of it? What if you could add a second layer to the system designed purely for speed? This is the revolutionary idea behind Layer 2 scaling solutions. And for Ethereum, this became the primary battlefront. The thinking was simple. Let the main Ethereum blockchain, the Layer 1, continue to do what it does best, provide world-class security and decentralization. It would be the ultimate court of settlement, the bedrock of trust. But for the millions of everyday low-stakes transactions, you could move them to a faster, cheaper Layer 2 network that was anchored to the main chain. The most promising of these technologies are called roll-ups, and they are a stroke of pure genius. Think of it like a highly efficient carpool lane for transactions. A Layer 2 solution like Arbitrum or Optimism gathers up thousands of individual transactions off the main Ethereum network. In its own high-speed environment, it processes them at lightning speed and for a fraction of a penny. Then it rolls them up into a single neat compressed package of data. It then submits just that one package, that one transaction representing thousands of others, back to the main Ethereum blockchain to be recorded forever. The security of the main chain is inherited, but the speed and cost are orders of magnitude better. Suddenly the game changed. With Layer 2s, Ethereum's capacity wasn't limited to 15 transactions per second anymore. It was theoretically infinite. You could just keep adding more Layer 2s, more express lanes to meet demand. This technological breakthrough was the equivalent of discovering how to build skyscrapers after a century of only being able to build two-story houses. It completely altered the landscape. Microtransactions became possible. Paying for a coffee with crypto was no longer a joke. A new generation of blockchain-based games and social media platforms, which require thousands of small, fast interactions, suddenly became viable. This isn't just an abstract tech race happening in some corner of the internet. The outcome of this war for utility will directly shape the future of finance in America. The platforms that win the scaling wars, whether they are new Layer 1s or the Layer 2s built on top of Ethereum, will become the new rails on which a multi-trillion-dollar tokenized economy is built. They will be the networks hosting the future digital dollar. They will be the ledgers recording the ownership of digital bonds, tokenized real estate, and intellectual property. The US financial system, the largest in the world, is looking for a technological foundation for its next evolution. It needs networks that are not only secure and decentralized, but also capable of handling the colossal transaction volume of a G7 nation. The winners of this war will be the ones to provide it. And this isn't happening in a sterile corporate lab. It's being built by a global, decentralized army of brilliant, often pseudonymous developers collaborating across borders in open-source environments. It is a Cambrian explosion of innovation happening in public, in real time. They are stress-testing these systems, finding bugs, and pushing the boundaries of what's possible in computer science and cryptography. They are fighting to solve the very problems that could prevent this technology from ever reaching its potential. They are building the engines, the plumbing, the invisible infrastructure that could one day power a more open, efficient, and accessible financial world. The technology was finally starting to feel ready for prime time. The networks were becoming fast enough, cheap enough, and secure enough to handle the load. But solving the plumbing, as critical as it is only half the battle. You can build the fastest, most secure financial network in human history, But it's all for nothing if the average person can't figure out how to use it. The technical barriers were falling, but the human barrier remained. If the technology is finally ready for the masses, are the masses ready for the technology? The final frontier isn't about transactions per second. It's about human adoption. How do you take this incredibly powerful, complex machine and make it so simple, so intuitive, that your grandmother can use it without a second thought? The war for utility was being won, but the quest for usability had just begun. And this is where the story pivots from the abstract to the deeply personal. Because technology, no matter how revolutionary, is useless if it's unusable. The internet didn't take over the world with command line prompts and dial-up modems. It exploded with the arrival of the web browser, the search engine, the simple clickable hyperlink. It became intuitive. It became human. For cryptocurrency to truly arrive, it must disappear. I know that sounds like a paradox, but it's the ultimate truth of every foundational technology. You don't think about the TCP/IP protocol when you watch a video online. You don't ponder the intricacies of the ACH network when you get your paycheck via direct deposit. The technology succeeds when it becomes the invisible, silent plumbing of our lives. The future of crypto in the US isn't about everyone becoming a sophisticated trader who can read a smart contract. It's about the technology becoming so seamlessly integrated into the apps we already use that we don't even know we're using it. Imagine a world just 5 to 10 years from now. An independent musician in Nashville releases a new song. Instead of uploading it to a platform that takes a 30% cut and pays them fractions of a penny per stream, they release it directly to their fans through a new kind of app. Each listen, each share, each use in a fan's video is automatically tracked on a public ledger. Micropayments, fractions of a digital dollar, flow directly from the listener to the artist in real time. There's no 3-month delay for royalty checks. No opaque accounting from a corporate giant. Just a pure, transparent, instantaneous connection between the creator and their audience. The artist doesn't need to know what a blockchain is. They just know they're getting paid fairly and instantly for their work. The technology has disappeared. Or picture a small business owner in Omaha trying to get a loan to expand. Instead of weeks of paperwork, credit checks, and meetings with a loan officer, she opens an app on her phone. The app analyzes her business's real-time cash flow, tokenizes her future invoices, and presents them as collateral to a global, decentralized lending pool. Within minutes, algorithms match her with thousands of tiny lenders from around the world, each contributing a small amount. The terms are transparent, the interest rate is competitive, and the funds are in her account by the end of the day. She hasn't interacted with a bank. She's interacted with a system built on trust, transparency, and code. The complexity is hidden. Only the utility remains. This is the end game. It's not about replacing the dollar with Bitcoin. It's about upgrading the very rails our economy runs on. It's about creating a financial and digital layer for the internet that is native to it, one that is open, permissionless, and owned by its users, not by a handful of giant corporations. And this brings us to the final and perhaps most profound piece of the puzzle: digital identity and ownership. For the last 20 years, our online identities have been rented. We exist as profiles on platforms owned by Facebook, Google, and others. They hold the keys to our digital lives, our data, our social connections. We are the product. A future built on cryptographic principles flips this model on its head. Imagine a digital wallet that holds more than just money. It holds your identity, your diploma from college, your professional certifications, your medical records, your property deeds. Not copies, but the actual verifiable, cryptographically secured originals. When you apply for a job, you don't send a PDF of your resume. You grant the employer temporary, verifiable access to your credentials directly from your wallet. When you go to a new doctor, you grant them access to your medical history for the duration of your visit, and then revoke it. You and only you control the keys to your own data. In this future, the battle between the centralized and decentralized worlds becomes less of a war and more of a negotiation. The government-issued CBDC might exist in your wallet right alongside decentralized stablecoins. You might use the CBDC for paying taxes or receiving government benefits, thanks to its efficiency and direct pipeline. But you might use a decentralized currency for peer-to-peer payments, for participating in online communities, or for interacting with that global lending protocol. Wall Street's Bitcoin ETFs will provide a simple, regulated on-ramp for millions, a bridge from the old world to the new. But once they cross that bridge, they'll discover a vibrant, sprawling digital continent of decentralized applications and autonomous organizations that offer things the old world simply cannot. It won't be an either/or future. It will be a hybrid future. A world where trust is both institutional and algorithmic, where value is defined by governments and by global decentralized networks. The United States has always been a nation of pioneers, a country built on the edge of the known world. It was founded on radical ideas of self-sovereignty, individual liberty, and the right to own property. In many ways, the rise of cryptocurrency is a digital echo of that founding spirit. It's a new frontier, a chaotic, often messy and unregulated space filled with risk, but also with immense opportunity. An opportunity to redefine what ownership means in a digital age. An opportunity to build financial systems that are more open, fair, and accessible. An opportunity to give individuals more control over their digital lives. The path forward will not be a straight line. There will be booms and busts. There will be regulatory battles and political fights. There will be brilliant innovations and spectacular failures. But the underlying technology, this idea of a decentralized, trust-minimized way of coordinating human activity, is not going away. It is one of the most significant technological innovations of the 21st century. So, what could the future of cryptocurrency in the US look like? It could look like a more dynamic, more entrepreneurial, and more equitable version of the American dream. It could look like a world where creators have more power, where small businesses have more access to capital, and where individuals have more sovereignty over their own data and identity. But it all depends on the choices we make now, the regulations we craft, the technologies we build, and the values we embed into the code that will underpin the next generation of the internet. The future of cryptocurrency in America is not just a story about technology, it's a story about us. It's a test of our ability to adapt, to innovate, and to embrace a new frontier, just as we have done so many times before. The code is being written. The system is being built, and we are all, whether we know it or not, part of the story.